So yeah, he's giving me a filthy look, and I think it's because he knows what I'm thinking about.
I don't know. I can't get him. I can't read him. I mean, every time Riker walks by, he seems to look upset. But
yeah, well, the thing is, I'm pretty certain he knows what I'm thinking about. But we watched that movie the other night, Under the Rainbow. So I've just been thinking about, little people fucking each other.
Yeah.
But I don't want him to think that's what I'm into.
If anything, I've actually been thinking less rude things about little people than I usually do.
Podcasts. A Frontier. These are the voyages of the podcast Captain Slug. Its ongoing mission: to explore strange new episodes, to seek out new jokes and new references, to split infinitives that no one has split before. Captain Slog, Stardate 67.
Close.
These are the continued voyages of this podcast. I'm Eddie. That's Mark. I pointed there. This isn't a visual medium. But yeah. How you been, Mark? What you been
I'm good. I don't know if we told you this. We were down in London. We were there only there very briefly. We were there for a wedding. And I don't know. You're English, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, for my sins.
Where are you from? I can't tell.
I am original. So this is the thing. I'm literally. I was born like 2 train stations outside the M25. Right. So like I'm basically London.
Right. I've never asked you that before. We've been friends, and I consider you genuinely one of my best friends. And I've never bothered to find that out, so apologies.
Yeah, I'm from the town Brentwood, the same place as The Only Way is Essex, which is why I don't live there anymore.
You're sort of a Londoner, right? So you're sort of one of these South England people. Have you ever? Here's my advice, right? For if you're a person from London or from South England. If you meet someone with a different British accent, because again, my accent is technically a British accent, right? It's there. Make sure that when you first meet them and you talk to them, if you have heard them speak, for example, doing a best man speech or something, make sure to pepper in somewhere that you struggled with the accent, right? Because we love to hear that, right? Make sure it comes just after you tell me what your name is or whatever, or how you know the groom, and then just pepper in I didn't quite catch what you were saying, but it sounded great. Get one of them in. That's what we live for. I imagine
you particularly also get regularly within the first couple of lines of conversation somebody having to bring up the fact that Train Spotting had subtitles in America.
Yeah. And then what I like to do is, if someone does that to me, I'm just like, did you notice that in Train Spotting at one point when he's in London, he's carrying a 7-Eleven bag, despite the fact that 7-Eleven has never actually existed? Maybe outside of the United States, but it's never existed in the UK as far as I'm aware. And usually at that point, that's when they'll be like, no, I don't want to keep talking to this guy.
7-Eleven did exist in the UK. There was one in Shenfield. When I was a kid growing up, which is the town next to Brentwood.
All right, so yeah. Mark Renton went all the way there to pick up whatever he was eating when they were in London doing a scam or a robbery or something. I can't really remember the end of Trainspotting.
Yeah, I don't know how long 7-Eleven was over here for, but I remember it occupies the same mental space for me as Our Price. Yeah. It's like it was around then. Like, Woolworths hung on for too long. Woolworths is a shop that should have died when the 80s ended. But Our Price and 7-Eleven are like in those... If you wanted to do an episode of Black Mirror, like set in the 80s, those are the things you'd need to put in the high street for me to go, oh yeah, that's the 80s.
If you were doing a movie set in the 80s in Glasgow, you would have to have a shop called What Everyone Wants, which was a kind of almost like cash and carry type situation. But you have to have, but because it sells things that you can use around the house and in the kitchen and shit, you have to have everyone call it What Every Woman Wants, as like a preemptive, you can't say anything these days complaint about a shop that, as far as I am aware, was always called What Everyone Wants. It's like how they changed the to boldly go where no man has gone before. They changed it to where no one. It's that, but for a cash and carry.
Yeah. It didn't even make sense for it to be no man has gone before, because like Uhura was right there, like in shot, like in the establishing shot. It's always Kirk's in his chair, and then Uhura's over there. Uhura met Kirk this week. If you're watching Strange New Worlds,
did Spock.
Yes, yeah,
and
they bonded over Kirk's brother being annoying. Which is good for now. He's going to be dead soon.
Is he? Does he die?
I think so.
Yeah, because I guess he's not on Kirk's Enterprise.
No,
because we've been talking about that quite a lot.
Or maybe he just leaves because he refuses to take orders from his fucking smug brother. Because to be fair, I do quite like the fact that in Strange New Worlds they are addressing that being Kirk's brother must be like hell.
Yeah, and I like the implication that because Kirk's dad was like a really big deal in what I assume was ops in Starfleet, Kirk's brother Sam's choice of xenoanthropology, which I was talking to Laura during the episode. I was like, if I was a Star Trek man, that's what I would do. I imagine that would be super interesting, but he's doing that mainly because his dad thinks it's boring. I really like that.
Yeah, so what's new and exciting in xenoanthropology? And he's like, literally everything all the time.
That's how anthropology operates, yeah. It's about the past, but it's about new things we discover about the past, isn't it? I really liked that. I love this. The part where Kirk and Spock met, and it was super, super understated, and it just came at the end of an episode. Like, I think Laura turned around to me with a look, and I had the biggest smile on my face. Like, what an important, what a weird choice, what an awesome choice to have such, like, the one defining moment of Star Trek, and it happens just as a afterthought at the end of a very good episode.
That one handshake is one of the most important historical events for the entire universe. And not like, I don't mean like from a fictional point of view. Those two being friends stops the universe from ending outright on 20 occasions.
Yeah.
Right.
Those two being friends has real world ramifications for our own space exploration.
Yeah, the first ever space shuttle was called Enterprise because those two are mates with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was talking, because we were discussing, because Laura's very she's very well read, she's very into theatre. We are both pretty into kind of literature theory and stuff. And I was talking about, are they still considered literary characters? Just because they're on screen, they were still written, and Kirk and Spock, arguably, going forward, will be some of mankind's most important literary characters in mankind's canon.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, Spock is definitely a literary character, because, as we know, one of his ancestors is Sherlock Holmes. Which, if you get too bogged down in canon, becomes fucking baffling.
I imagine that was a thing his mum told him. His sexy, sexy mum.
Why is it? Or why does Spock's mum have to always be sexy? Because she's sexy in Strange New Worlds, but in the Kelvin timeline, she's Winona Ryder. Yeah. That's no slouch. There's a great if you haven't ever seen it, there's a great clip that went viral a while ago, and it's of Winona Ryder giving an interview to promote Stranger Things, and the actor who plays Hopper is next to her as she's doing it, and she's talking about she's talking about being an awkward teenager in the 80s. She's got this look on his face, it's like,
yeah,
you were literally Winona Ryder in the 80s, one of the most attractive women. Like, you were a poster people had on their wall, right?
Johnny Depp had to get a tattoo of your name covered up. You done it. I know, that's we're not inside her head, but if you're going to be anyone, if you roll a dice and you end up Winona Ryder, I'd say that's pretty good. Every couple of years, people will be like, "Oh, we've rediscovered Winona Ryder."
People our age would be like, "Never forgot about Winona Ryder, not for a second."
It's like that one where they say people are reappraising The Mummy as if they haven't been watching it every 6 weeks since 1999.
Yeah, well, Winona Ryder's great for me. She's always been an age-appropriate crush.
Yeah.
So I've fancied her since Beetlejuice, which is a bit uncomfortable if I go back and watch it now. But she's always been gorgeous, and now I look at her and go, yeah, still would.
Yeah, every time.
It's like how Ashton Kutcher married Demi Moore. It's like, yeah, and he was just high-fiving his teenage self back through the years.
And then he married Mila Kunis so that he could high-five everyone else. She's a massive Trek fan. Did you know that?
Yeah. I found out about that recently. She's quite nerdy in quite a lot of ways, because there's been some times where she's being interviewed alongside another celebrity, and they bring up that she's like a massive fan of something, and she has to be all like, "Oh no."
Yeah.
Anyway, this episode of Star Trek, not Strange New Worlds, TNG, Tin Man.
Yeah.
It's an alright episode.
I would describe this episode as the way I would describe this episode is basically the WGA has nothing to worry about, because this felt like a Star Trek episode written by an AI.
This is this is an episode that this is going to be weird. I think this is the platonic ideal of what a Star Trek episode is. What I mean is, there are very great highs in Star Trek. Your Measures of a Man's, your the second episode of this season of Strange New Worlds. Like, there are bits and goes, and there is some absolute dross. Your racist episodes. We're going to uncover so much problematic shit when we watch the original series. But if you were just going to go, I want an episode that is is the exact median of a Star Trek episode, it's this.
Yeah. I feel like if someone hadn't seen Star Trek and wanted to know what Star Trek was about, if I showed them this one, they would never watch it again.
Yeah, it's not an episode that you could show someone to go. If you showed somebody this episode, it wouldn't make them a Star Trek fan, but it would be the fairest representation of what Star Trek on average is.
Yeah, exactly. There's too much going on, nothing really gets developed, and there's not enough Anson Mount.
And one actor turns up who you definitely recognise more for another role.
Yeah.
Because after we did talk about him last week, the fucking mayor showed up.
That's right, yeah.
He turned up. Do you know, I looked up his IMDb, right? Okay. Buffy is the third on his, the little known for. And I'm like,
nope.
I'm sorry.
Nope.
You were one of the biggest villains for an entire season arc. One of the best season arcs, and you turned into a giant snake. The entire school had to unite and fight you. It had the build-up that had, like, Buffy got a special award because her graduating class had the lowest fatality rate.
Yeah.
for a decade.
He tried to strangle Buffy in the hospital, which was a really interesting bit.
Yeah, he turned faith evil.
If you take the anti-hero element away, so your faiths, your angels, and your spikes, he is arguably the second most iconic villain in a show that, if you looked up the word iconic in the dictionary, it would tell you the definition of the word iconic, which is what that show is. That's a joke from Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Stole from Shane Black.
Who do you put above the mayor as iconic for the Buffy?
Oh, the Master. The Masters.
Okay.
Yeah. Surely, right?
I think the Master gets an oversized. He's not. He's in that first series, which is only 12 episodes.
Yeah.
And then he comes back a few times in from the dead and timelines. But
see, Buffy in terms of quality for me exists on a bell curve, where seasons 3 and 4 are the perfect seasons because they're the ones that stick most to what I think Joss Whedon, may he forever lay in the bin, was trying to get at. The idea, because the original gag, of course, for Buffy is, why does the blonde always get killed first? Why can't the blonde be the one doing the killing?
So the cheerleader gets lured down an alley by the monster and gets killed, whereas in Buffy, what happens is you hear horrific screaming, and if they're lucky, the monster gets away, but usually they don't.
Yeah, exactly. And the kind of the secondary gag on top of that is, how can she live a normal life while being the Slayer? I feel like the season 1, obviously it's the pilot season, so it's finding its feet, and then season 2 kind of gets it, and then seasons 3 and 4 are where that really comes into effect. Yes, she can be in high school and still do this, because high school really, at the end of the day, not that hard. And it's more social pressures, but then she gets into college and realises, if she wants to keep doing this, the rest of her life is going to be incredibly difficult. And then 5, 6, and 7...
And literally only can work if your roommate is your best friend who is fully aware of what you're doing and can cover your back consistently and repeatedly.
Exactly. A lot of admin in those seasons, which I quite enjoy.
Yeah, but that's the stuff I like.
Yeah, me too.
I had a mate who summed it up once. A great point about he was talking about heroes, and he went, "What I like about it is a show where people aren't afraid to get their powers out for the lads."
Yeah,
and it's that thing of it's in I think the second X-Men movie when Iceman chills the beer for Wolverine. And it's that's what I want. It's just I have superpowers which let me fight evil, but also they radically improve my everyday life in a lot of small ways. I can't imagine Iceman's ever had a hangover.
Yeah,
because you just go, if I could turn my head into a literal block of ice, that's probably going to relieve the pressure.
I'm very much a if you want me to, because I love fantastical settings and world building and kind of admin and all that stuff. But if you want me to relate to that, if you want me to engage with this, those people have to have real life problems. They have to feel like real people. That's why, as you well know, that's why Spider-Man is popular. Spider-Man is... I don't know if this fact still is the case, but for a long time, Spider-Man merchandise was more popular than literally all other superhero stuff combined. Because children are like, oh, this guy's a superhero, but also he has issues. Because you know what kids love is problems.
Well, I love that I saw that. So there's a recent thing there's a recent comic book where Wolverine fights Venom, and Venom tries to show off that he's regularly beat Spider-Man up, and Wolverine's like, Spider-Man's 12. Yeah. Why are you impressed? That guy's a loser. And Wolverine proceeds to basically kick fuck out of him. Because,
right. So strap in. Here's the plot. So the Enterprise, there's a ship, and they think the ship might be organic. They can't,
like the Lex or Moira from Farscape.
Yeah, they can't communicate with the ship in any way, so they have to bring on a Betazoid, who is the first ever male Betazoid we ever see.
Yeah, Tam Albran,
and he's got a sort of Betazoid sort of disability almost, where his empath powers switched on at birth rather than at adolescence, so he constantly hears everyone's thoughts all the time, and that would have been an interesting plot for a show, but that's It's not even the B plot. That's just part of the A plot. So they bring him in because he's going to communicate with the ship. But oh no, they have to get to the ship fast because the Romulans also want it for some reason that's never explained.
Yeah, and also it's worth noting that the guy Tam Alvarin is infamous a bit, because he was of his role in the Goroshta disaster, which killed 47 people, including 2 of Riker's friends.
Yeah.
And that was written in to the episode because the writers needed to have a surefire way to make sure that Riker wasn't constantly thinking about sex while the telepath was on. But yeah, Riker's just furious, and this guy is arguing with his thoughts.
Yeah. And this guy's pretty happy to meet Data, because obviously Data doesn't have readable thoughts.
Yeah, that was nice to have that confirmed.
Yeah.
So yeah. So like Data, and he's like, oh, he says to Troy, I find Data, like, what is it? I find him relaxing.
Yeah.
And Troy basically says, you're literally the only person who thinks that. She doesn't use the words, everybody else thinks he's a bit much, but that's clearly what she means.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've got to go find the ship, and it's near a star that's going to blow up as well.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So there's time limits and time limits and time limits. And it becomes it's there because its crew. So its crew got killed by a radiation blast at some point.
Yep.
And also it's been alone for millennia, so it doesn't know. It might be the last of its kind, or it might just be from somewhere real fucking far away. And it has decided that it's going to be by the star that's going to explode because it wants to die.
Yep.
And then it's a standard Star Trek thing. The guy who can't be around people finds his place on board the ship, which may or may not blow up at the end of the episode, or they just leave.
Who knows?
It's something that happens a lot in Star Trek. It happened with VJ.
Yep.
It's a fairly common science fiction. It's just a list of science fiction tropes. Psychic man doesn't like being around people, has gone insane previously because of the noise of everything, likes to be on his own. Person seeking their place in the universe finds a fucking weird thing in space, and it's
that. There's one really, really, really impressive visual effect though.
Right, which one?
When the chair, the sort of stop motion Phil Tippett looking chair emerges from the from the skin of the Tin Man. Oh, and people keep talking about Tin Man.
I hope you weren't going to say anything involving the fucking ship, it blasting things away and it knocking other ships around, because all of the CGI in Next Gen is surprisingly good, and it has been. These are the ones on Netflix that have been restored, but that doesn't change the fact that the design of these effects looks fucking silly.
Yeah, well, the blast, because at one point when the Romulans get too close, this thing just unleashes a blast of radiation that wipes them out. That effect is from the motion picture.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And they just rejigged it.
Oh, right.
I read.
Were you going to mention them calling him by the wrong name, even when they know its real name?
Oh, yeah, dead name in it. Yeah, big time, yeah. Because who decides that it's called Tin Man?
That's like a name. It's not even a name that makes sense. It's just
because it doesn't have a heart.
It's been found by a long distance probe, and the Enterprise needs to go there because they want to go there the fastest. And the Romulans claim this sector belongs to them, but as Worf says, guys, the Romulans claim everything belongs to them.
I once played the Tin Man in an amateur youth dramatics production of The Wizard of Oz, a performance that was described as possibly miscast.
How old were you at that point that you were getting such scathing?
I'd say I was about 13.
Okay, no, yeah, that's fair.
But they put
you wouldn't, if you're like 7.
Yeah.
Then I'd be like, don't say that.
The whole problem with it is that the Tin Man doesn't really get a character. He doesn't have a heart, but he's sad, so he had a heart the whole time or something.
Well, yeah, they all had their things the whole time.
I did suggest I remember saying to the director, a 13-year-old, and I was talking to the director, who was a woman in her sort of mid-60s, saying, should I play this like Bender from Futurama? And that might have been where the comment came from. I did say that, actually. That is true. I didn't make that up. And she went, no. Just play it like how Mark would play the Tin Man. Okay. Not a great director.
She didn't even say go watch the film and play it like that.
No, I don't think I did watch the film. I think I was. I think
play it overly vaudevillian.
I think I was like, I don't want it to pepper my performance. I want my own interpretation of this to be pure. Not great.
Right.
Not very good. Did not get the same amount of applause as the Lion and the Tin Man, as the Lion and the Scarecrow. Needless to say, when it came to
there's more to them.
Yeah,
the Cowardly Lion, you get a chance to overreact. You get if you're a physical comedian, then you know the Scarecrow's the role for you. Tin Man, there's not a lot.
Walks about as tin.
Yeah, once you get past oil can, I can't really like when people are quoting the Wizard of Oz. They rarely quote the Tin Man.
Yeah.
It's always While Away the Flowers or Lions of Tigers of Bears Oh My. Those are your two.
You could probably still do the song from memory. Yeah, and the guy, and the only thing they know about the Tin Man is that the guy who played the Tin Man got quite seriously ill from the lead-based paint that they'd used to paint himself up.
Oh man! If you're not aware of the hilarious series of disasters that is the making of the Wizard of Oz, dear God, I was in LA for Emma was there for some work and I was there just tagging along, and we were round the corner from the Culver Hotel, and I got a little video of me outside it, and I was super excited to be there because if you're listening to this, you are unaware of the Culver Hotel. The Culver Hotel is the hotel that they put all of the little people from the Wizard of Oz up in, and because at that time there had not been there wasn't an internet, there wasn't like a convention thing. These little people, a lot of them, it was their first time being around a bunch of other little people, and what that meant is it essentially turned into a drug-fueled orgy. There has been a movie made about this, where it's a comedy about the man whose job was to wrangle the midgets. And I've not seen it, but it was made in the 90s, so I doubt it was tastefully handled.
Who was in it? Jim Carrey.
I've got a strange feeling. It's James Marsden.
James, the Cyclops. Wasn't he about 12?
I don't know. He's been around
I
longer
guess.
than you think.
X-Men 2000. He would have been in like his late 20s. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
and I mean, you're not getting a 45-year-old man to go and wrangle the little people. Can't keep up with them.
I'm now googling James Marsden dwarf movie because I don't know how you would Google it. Because I right, anyway. But yeah, a movie does exist about that, and I think that is somewhat more fascinating than the story of the Wizard of Oz.
If we find out what that movie was called, you'll have heard about it in the cold open. if there was something in the cold open that made you go, what does that mean? There you go. 27 minutes into the podcast, we've explained it.
Right, yeah. But yeah, so I don't know why we got onto that. Anyway, Star Trek.
Yeah.
O'Brien Watch.
O'Brien turns up almost straight away. So there's that. That's good.
Classic.
Yeah.
And
also...
No Tasha Yar in this episode.
No. I feel like we should bring this up. So I recently looked at the stats for this podcast, and there have been somewhere in the region of, it's about 50 downloads of our yesterday's Enterprise episode. So I've decided this podcast needs more Tasha Yar. So this is now our Tasha Yar update section. Still dead.
I wonder if it was just a bunch of incels that downloaded that episode to hear us ragging on the only female captain of the Enterprise getting it royally fucked up. But that's not what happens. She's a hero. Rachel something or other. Rachel Paris? No, that's a real person. She's a comedian. What was her name?
What? Who?
Rachel. What was the name of the captain of the Enterprise C?
Oh God, Rachel. Oh God, they had a statue to her in Picard season.
Well, for a bit, and then some incels got to
it. Somebody Doctor Stranged it out of existence.
Trying to replace it with a statue of O'Brien. Oh, the Lower Decks crossover with Strange New World is next week.
It is.
And what I hope will be the crown in the jewel of an absolutely stellar season of Star Trek.
I'm hoping, given that Jack Quaid has done an episode of Best of the Worst, I'm hoping that this is the episode that finally gets Mike and Rich to watch Strange New Worlds. Because I get they didn't like the first episode, but really, they'd love it.
Yeah.
I know they think there's too many jokes in it, but that's all the jokes have been cut out and put in the little trailers.
Yeah.
It's actually brilliant. It's fantastic. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I like that the Romulans in this claim right of vengeance because the ship has blown up one of their things, and they're like, "We're here. We're going to kill that." Is that a rule in space?
It is in Romulan space.
If something weird kills one of your ships, the rest of your fleet are allowed to go kill that thing.
I think it's rule number 3 in what the Romulans call the sneaky bastard Romulan Codex. Which is just all the rules that they have for being sneaky bastards.
Alright, I've got the name of the film.
Oh yeah.
It's called Under the Rainbow.
What a slap in the face.
And it's from 1981. And it stars Chevy Chase, Carrie Fisher, Eve Arden and Billy Barty. I don't know Eve Arden and Billy Barty's names. I'm guessing they're playing the little people. Hopefully not all of them. Because Multiplicity was years away from this. So I don't know if we had the technology for that.
No.
But... I imagine that there's a separate documentary about the film, like another comedy movie I made about the drunken orgy that occurred when they filmed Under the Rainbow, because again it was the second largest gathering of midgets since the filming of Wizard of Oz.
You've thrown out the M word quite a lot there, Ed. What is this, 1981? Is this the premiere of Under the Rainbow?
I don't know. I don't know what the preferred term is for. Because I've heard little people, but that sounds weirdly condescending.
I think it is little people.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, little people. I'm sorry to the little people who listened to this.
They're
if I've used the wrong term. I meant no offense.
They're playing this at the third biggest gathering of little people. They're like, do you know what we really like? That Star Trek podcast with those two idiots who, now that we've got to a point where most Star Trek episodes are at average, they just talk about anything else because there's literally no new ideas that they could glean from this episode.
We see Data's painting. That's about it. That's new.
Yeah,
and it looked nice. It's better than art generated by modern AI. If Data does a painting, do the official people whose job it is to do paintings for around the Enterprise, that they go on strike.
We should have had a second measure of a man. Measure of two men. Where, yeah, all the holodeck novelists have to go on strike. And Adam Conover's still there. He's still going on space TikTok to keep everyone informed about the bastardry of the holodeck studios. Because I guess that there would be, because here's the thing, right? Like the Star Trek future is a future where it's post scarcity, so people only really do what they want, right? And we know that like Sisko's dad had a restaurant where he made real organic food. We know that people in Paris ran a restaurant because, I guess they just like service. I got really turned round on that. Have you seen The Bear season 2?
I've not seen The Bear season 1.
Right, watch the.
I've heard it's amazing.
It's top. It's already beaten The Last of Us as my show of the year.
Oof,
yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But in The Bear season 2, and I won't spoil it because it's a genuinely wonderful episode. But there's an episode that basically goes into why do people work in the service industry? Like what is the drive to do all that? And it really made me think, there is a love there. Like there has to be a passion, and maybe this is just an industry where too many people go into it without having that passion. But it made me realise, in the Star Trek future, there definitely are going to be servers because it's a sort of noble gig. I
also imagine that if you're being a waiter in a post-scarcity society does have an extra joy of it, which is you can tell people to fuck off.
Yeah. Great. And then they don't come back. Fantastic.
Yeah, I don't need this job. Nobody in this restaurant needs this job to live.
Yeah.
So if you want to come in and yell and scream and complain, we're gonna not even politely, we're gonna ask you to leave.
Yeah. But the point I was going to get at is that there's still, like, we know that movies don't really exist anymore. Because I think in Enterprise, like I think it's Trip is like a big fan of old timey movies, which at that point is all movies. And so we've obviously moved on to holodeck kind of narrative creation, but I imagine there would still be like a studio system, because there is. I've not seen it. I just am aware that there is one. There is an episode of Voyager that deals with the problem of intellectual property ownership in the post-scarcity age. So, like, Disney still probably owns quite a lot of the. I no doubt you can use Mickey Mouse and Superman and Batman and all that shit, and all the things that we know that'll be well out of copyright. But there's probably still quite a lot of stuff owned by the Disney Corporation who undoubtedly still exist in the Star Trek future.
There are two options for how Disney is in the future, which is one, the minute money stopped existing, all the executives just left.
Yeah.
And then people who were actually like passionate about creating art just moved into those positions in the structure and just was like, oh yeah, you can use, and didn't have to use money anymore. It's like, oh yeah, you can use that stage to make that.
See, this is the thing. I don't know about that, because having also just finished Succession, which is about people who are so rich that money may as well not exist for them. So all they crave is power. If power and status becomes the only currency, those psychopaths are absolutely going to do everything that they can to keep that in check. And so there is still probably going to be a studio system. There probably still are writers' strikes in the 24th century.
Here's the thing, though, because it would be a studio. If money wasn't the thing, the power and prestige of like Disney, for example, would be by the quality of their work.
Yeah.
And therefore, you've then got, like, even if the executives remain, they'd be very differently motivated. So you'd probably not get, it's like, no rush. We just want you to make the best movie. Like, if Disney only released one movie every 4 years, but it was the best fucking movie.
Yeah.
People would be, or the alternative is, the minute humans invented a post-scarcity society, Disney left.
Because then,
like, Disney went, well, we own these planets and we're keeping money.
Yeah, because you have to, yeah, exactly. Planet Disney, yeah. It'll be called Walt Disney World. It'll be a planet shaped like Epcot.
Well, this is the thing. If we work this out, right, the Earth is where we know Earth is in the galaxy, and we know that there's that. We know where Bajor is roughly. It's like it's up towards the edge of the quadrant, because it's where the wormhole is that takes you right into the middle of the other quadrant as far away. I don't think we ever see much stuff that like is further out from the center of the galaxy. I think basically all of Star Trek went, no, all the stuff seems to be over there. That's where we're going to go. And I reckon the rest of the spiral arm, if you go the other way from Earth, is just all owned by Disney.
Yeah. Because I guess, because we obviously like the holodeck is like there's a narrative purpose for the holodeck. It's so that they don't have to keep going to planets to have cool adventures. But the thing about the holodeck is, we sort of imagine the holodeck as almost being ubiquitously available for our characters. When they have a bit of spare time, they can go to the holodeck. But we also know that there are holodeck suites on Deep Space Nine and Quark's bar. So presumably there is only a limited number of people who can go into a holodeck. It's unlikely that you're going to have a holodeck in your house, right? Because it probably takes quite a lot of power, which Picard sort of touched on that, like how there's power specifically for the holodeck. It's on a different system because it takes so much power, but also it's a place to go and congregate if everything's fucked. So there's probably like neighborhood holodecks, and if all media and entertainment is coming out in holodeck form for you to go and experience it, there probably still are release dates. So Disney probably are still working to a schedule. Avengers 27 is probably still coming out, and people standing in the middle of the battlefield looking at Captain America going, oh, what's going to happen now? Oh, he's getting a little radio message on your left. Oh, this is fun. And they're just standing there in the middle of the battlefield just chewing away on their popcorn, probably wearing 3D glasses for the nostalgia. I'm going to start editing 24th century observers into movies and just pretending that they're watching it on a holodeck.
I would figure that, here's the thing though, I would figure that film still because the thing is, the idea is that holodecks have replaced like the main form of entertainment, but as far as I can see, the holodeck replaces the PlayStation. Yeah, it doesn't replace. And I have a PlayStation, but I still go see films. They're different.
Christopher Nolan's probably still keeping IMAX film format alive.
Yeah, there's still that one cinema in LA that Tarantino owns, still showing stuff on film. People are being like, we don't even make this anymore. We had to blow up a meteorite to get the material to make this. And he's like, nope. Must be that way.
What we showed, Men in Black 2. Really, was that worth it? Yeah, but it's on 35. Oh, that is cool. No, you're right. Prince Charles Cinema's probably still going. They probably still get the sign up that says, no, we're not changing the name. And then the date of birth and death of Charles.
I wonder, and I was thinking about this the other day. Is how weird is it going to be in 40 years for us to have to explain to the new generation why regularly cinemas that show old classic movies, things like the Prince Charles or your Everyman, stuff like that, we're going to have to explain to future generations why they always show a double bill of Barbie and Oppenheimer. And just go, no, yeah, they released on the same day. And it goes, what, is that it? It goes, no, it was a big cultural thing. Yeah. Why? Because it's silly that they came out at the same time. And they were both really good, and everybody wanted to see both of them.
I was hosting a quiz the other day. It's a big kind of event pub quiz that we do once a month. And I have to write the rounds for it. And it was one that I had the idea the night before, and then I fucking forgot. And Laura was raging because I was going to do the Barbieheimer round, where there was 10 questions which would alternate between questions about Barbie and the history of Barbie and questions about the creation of the atomic bomb.
I would argue sociologically that Barbie and the atomic bomb were in many ways the two defining inventions of the latter half of the previous century.
I'd say there's certainly an argument to be made. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree.
Yeah, to be fair, because I saw somebody complaining, people are complaining about Barbie being woke, and it's like, Barbie was an astronaut at a time when women couldn't have their own credit cards.
Yeah.
Barbie's always been, when Barbie said to little girls, you can be anything you can imagine, she was selling a beautiful lie, because in the world that existed at the time, you couldn't be. And it was only the girls who were brought up on that, demanding that change. I'm not saying Barbie's responsible for feminism. I want to be clear on that. There are actual women who need to be credited. I don't know their names, but I imagine there are actual women who need to be credited. But as a cultural force, Barbie has weirdly defined a large section of time. Like, if you could argue that those 50 years were either the Atomic Age or the Barbie era, and you can make a very strong argument for both.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's an alright episode of Star Trek. Gom2. Gom2's the alien's name. They keep calling him Tin Man. They know his name's Gom2. I say he is. I don't know. He's not got gender.
To be fair, though, your man, the mayor, is the only one who can speak to him.
Yeah. But he could tell everyone he's called Gom2.
Yeah. That's my friend, Gone to. Gone to where? Riker said. And then immediately started remembering a massacre.
Yeah. Gone to where you could fuck off to.
Do you think that's what he said in his head every single time?
Yeah. I love that Geordie's in this episode very briefly, and he's like talking to Riker, and he goes, "Yeah, I heard about that disaster. 40 people died," and Riker immediately comes back 47.
Yeah.
Like Riker is like I get that it was a big deal, but like I live in London. The 7/7 bombings happened here. I don't have the exact figures of how many people died memorised, or Grenfell, and that was a big deal.
Yeah.
9/11, no idea.
I'd argue that if 7/7 didn't happen on a very memorable date, we wouldn't even remember it. Because say what you want about 9/11, that marketing was fucking spectacular.
Yeah, even though it's to the point where we all call it 9/11, even though globally it was 11/9.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Emma pointed out the other day, she says, do you think they did it because 911 is the emergency services number in America?
I saw an argument on Facebook about this the other day.
Yeah.
And it was to do with the date format, because someone then, because it basically, as always happens in these, there was a bunch of Americans explaining why their date format is the most useful, and then everyone else in the world replying to it going, no, you're dumb. Your system makes no sense.
Yeah, Henry VIII isn't the 8th day of Henry.
Yeah.
Right, okay?
We get it. You say the 4th of July. No, the 4th of July doesn't even count. You say July 21st. Fine.
Yeah.
But if you're American and you're wondering this, I could come back as in, yes, well, if you have time, if you put a clock next to it as well, it means that the seconds, you go from hours, minutes, seconds. I can't remember. There was someone having this argument and everyone was pointing out, right, the hour system still makes sense in that fucking format. Because because they're like, yeah, but then you'll see the day going up and it's the 4th number and it maybe gets confusing. And it's like, no one is looking at a clock that is hours, minutes, seconds, days, months, years, and getting surprised when the day goes up. Like, well, what the fuck is that? Is that milliseconds? Why is there only one every 24 hours?
Why does that only change once every 24 hours? Coincidentally, the same exact length as a day. I wonder what it could possibly mean.
Oh, here's a thing that fuck this episode, right? It's fine. Who cares? The mayor's in it, right? Whatever. I've discovered, and I mean discovered in the way that people say that Christopher Columbus discovered America, and that this was a very popular thing already, and I happened upon it. There's a video series I've been watching on YouTube called Summoning Salt. And it's a bloke who makes little mini documentaries, usually 20 to 45 minutes. And it's about the history of speedrunning games.
Oh, right.
And if you're not aware, speedrunning games is literally finding the tricks to finish a game in the quickest possible time, right? So, like, Super Mario Brothers is probably the most famous. I think Super Mario 64 is the one that is the most, right? There's the most of these done, and it's like you can finish Super Mario Brothers in 5 minutes if you know exactly what moves to make, you know exactly what glitches, and it gets so competitive near the end that they have to find individual frames of animation to save. So there's 24 frames of animation per second or 60. I can't remember, however it works on the Nintendo Entertainment System, right? And basically, this video, it's a 45-minute video about what's called the human limit. And essentially, you can get a computer and put into the computer, complete this game in the fastest time possible, right? And the computer will figure out exactly how to do it. And it will do it perfectly. And the perfect limit for a computer is something like 4 minutes, 56 seconds, and like 3 milliseconds. And basically, up to this point, over the last 10 years, human beings have managed to make it within like 3 milliseconds of the computer's time. Just by sheer force of will. And this video, and it's literally just a guy going, on the 18th of August, this gamer called 420 Blazer or whatever, XXX, got through it in this time, and he discovered that if you turn left on this pixel and then immediately turn right again, Mario moves faster, blah, 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 blah. But it's so interesting when it comes to a study of the human condition of like wanting to achieve perfection that it should be a movie. Like, if the Gran Turismo movie can get out there, this should be... There has to be a way to make this like visually exciting for people who don't understand it. But it's just people are so obsessed with trying to get it perfect. Because once we figure out how to do the 3 milliseconds that we can't quite shave off, and we know how to do it, it's just that humans physically can't move that fast with their fingers. But it will be like, that's perfect. We have perfected Mario. There is no way to make it better. We've done it.
Yeah, it's like, for example, there is a the high score on Pac-Man.
Yeah,
is a number that cannot be beaten.
Yeah,
because it's already a perfect game. It's get every ghost every time you get a dot, get every piece of fruit. That's it. You can't beat that. There is an upper limit.
Sonic the Hedgehog 1 as well. I think, if I recall right, I remember reading this back in the early 2000s, so people have probably done it now. But I remember reading in a Sega magazine, back in the days when magazines were a thing, that like there is a perfect score for Sonic the Hedgehog, and six people have got it. But the reason I bring it up is because yesterday, at about 11 p.m, I turned round to try to explain this to Laura, and then realised what a fucking futile waste of time that would be for both of us.
I have, on several occasions, whilst going through, the 40-minute ritual every night of scrolling through all of the streaming services that I own, trying to decide on something that both me and Emma want to watch. I have on multiple occasions tried to sell King of Kong, where I've been like, look, it might not be about a subject that you care about, but it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Especially because if we watch it, I get to point out to you something amazing when we finished it, which is that Billy Mitchell is a cheater. Yeah. Also, sorry, Billy Mitchell is allegedly a cheater.
So I've heard.
But he is not allegedly very litigious.
Yeah. And I know you're listening to this, Billy, and you know what? Good job, mate. You done that perfectly legally.
If there is anyone in the world who scours the internet and podcasts for any mention of his name, I guarantee you it's Billy fucking Mitchell. He was in Newcastle last weekend for like their games convention, and they were just selling it as "come meet Billy Mitchell," and it's like, the famous gamer, because they can't put on there, he was the King of Kong. He's famous for being a cheat. But yeah, so I'd go down and get my picture taken with Billy Mitchell, and then I'd put it up online and go, me with noted internet arsehole. Yeah.
Because I'd take, if I had the opportunity to get a selfie with Nigel Farage, I'd take it.
Yeah. It's like that black police officer who's got a photo of him with David Duke.
Yeah.
From back in the day. Like, there are certain people out there who, they're not good people, but you take the opportunity.
Yeah, and I like collecting selfies of people who have the same level of bank account as I do. That's a topical reference that's going to age this episode.
I'm going to say talking about summoning sword and stuff, I love going down the rabbit hole of watching lengthy documentaries about subjects I don't think would be as lengthy as you could. So, for example, one of my all-time favourite videos is by H Bomber Guy,
yep.
And it's about the guy who's responsible for the "uff" sound from Roblox, and how they tracked down where that sound is from, and that is the first 40 minutes of the 2.5 hour video. And after 40 minutes of like, yeah, that's where the sound comes from. I just did this. It was a little light-hearted video. And then he started digging into the guy. And it turns out he has built himself a moderately successful place in the world of gaming on a tower of lies.
Yeah. His name's not Billy Mitchell. Just if you're listening, Billy.
No.
We're not talking about you.
He's
always tell the
truth.
The
first Western man to ever work on Sonic the Hedgehog, even though he makes claims that everyone just accepted because he just made them, and then nobody assumed you'd lie about such things. But they don't stand up to a cursory Google.
Yeah, because he said that in the days before we could translate Japanese gaming articles.
Yeah. And what I love about him is in that video there's a point where like it's like a man has claimed H. Bobby Guy's assistant said it's like the guy's given a TEDx talk and claimed he's given a TED talk.
Yeah.
And H. Bobby Guy goes, no, he's done literally that. Like he claimed he's been on Cribs.
Yeah.
But he hasn't.
Yeah.
It's like he's been on Cribs twice. Of course he hasn't been on Cribs twice. Cribs was people like Tony Hawk. I have one thing to bring up about this episode. They said that he's got an ESP rating of like 9 or something. Like there's an official scale of ESP. I choose to believe that is based on the groundbreaking research done in New York by Dr. Venkman.
Yep.
That's, as we've established, that's how warp cores work. They're full of ghosts.
Full of ghosts. Well, technically, according to this week's episode of Strange New Worlds, that is indeed what powers the warp cores, is extra-dimensional ghosts.
They're stealing our ideas, man.
Yeah.
We're going to have to sue the writers of Strange New Worlds. Well, we'll sue the studio. The writers haven't got any money.
Nah. And if David Zaslav has anything to do with it, they will have no houses soon.
Or fucking shade to stand under from the trees. Absolute fucking pricks.
Bell end. I think that's it. Just if you want to watch this one, do it. If you're on a rewatch of the whole series, skip it.
Yeah, you don't really miss anything. Nah. It doesn't move anything forward.
Nah.
It's got some interesting ideas, but it's got too many interesting ideas, really. Make the episode about sneaky Romulans, or make it about a big organic spaceship, or make it about a telepath who's too telepathic. Either one of those is a fine episode.
If you cut out the telepath angle and just have it literally being a space race, not only through space, but also through language, because they have an hour to get there before the Romulans do, and have to figure out a way to communicate with this thing. Boom. There's your episode. Don't need anything else.
Have it that the Romulans have uncloaked, because then that means they get to put more power into their warp engine, which means they can go a bit faster than the Enterprise. The Enterprise can keep up, but to do it, they're going to have to drop their shields, which means the Romulans can open fire on them. Or,
Yeah, proper submarine commanders. Proper submarine Star Trek.
Yeah. Anyway.
And then fucking Troy's fucking psychic. Don't just use Troy. She's been criminally underused this season.
Yeah, she has.
Yeah.
She has. I think that's going to be rectified shortly. I think.
Okay.
Because the next episode is Hollow Pursuits.
Ooh.
And there's quite a lot of Bev and quite a lot of Troy.
Yep.
And the introduction of a new character who is one of the best. Right, yeah.
Right.
Cool.
Bye.